Hi everyone, my name is Rubitra Gunalan. My metric number is 281022. I'll be presenting on Communication and Multimedia Act 1988, Act 588. Let's look at the history. The Communication and Multimedia Act 1988, Act 588 is a Malaysian legislation that governs the communication and multimedia industry in Malaysia. The Act was introduced in response to the rapid development of the communication and multimedia industry in the late 1990s and the need to regulate it. The Act provides the establishment of the Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commission, which is known as MCMC, to regulate and oversee the industry. The MCMC has the power to issue licenses and regulate the operation of communication and multimedia services in Malaysia. Over the years, the Act has undergone several amendments to keep up with the changing communication and multimedia landscape. In 2006, the Act was amended to include provisions on network security and cybercrime. In 2018, the Act was amended again to include provisions on the handling of personal data, reflecting the increasing importance of data protection in the digital age. So we can know that the Communication and Multimedia Act 1998, Act 588, is an important piece of legislation that has played a significant role in regulating the communication and multimedia industry in Malaysia. The Act has undergone several amendments over the years, reflecting the changing nature of the industry and the need to adapt to new challenges and opportunities. Let's move on to the purpose. The main purpose of this Act is to provide a legal framework for the development of the communication and multimedia industry in Malaysia, while ensuring the protection of consumers' interests and national security. This Act is also to promote the production of quality content while ensuring that content does not offend cultural, religious, and moral sensitivities. To achieve this, the Act provides for the establishment of a content code to regulate the content of communication and multimedia services. The Act also aims to protect national security by regulating the use of communication and multimedia services. It provides for the establishment of a network security framework to safeguard the security and integrity of communication and multimedia networks in Malaysia. In addition, the Act seeks to promote fair competition in the communication and multimedia industry. It provides for the establishment of a regulatory framework that ensures a level playing field for all players in the industry. Overall, the Communication and Multimedia Act 1998, Act 588 serves an important legal framework for the development of the communication and multimedia industry in Malaysia, while ensuring the protection of consumers' interests, national security, and fair competition in the industry. The Communication and Multimedia Act 1998, Act 588 contains several offence elements related to communication and multimedia services in Malaysia. The first one is offensive content. It is an offence to create, produce, distribute, or possess any content that is indecent, obscene, false, or offensive in nature. The Act defines offensive content as any content that is likely to deprave, corrupt, or injure the public morality, public interest, or national security. The second one is abuse of network facilities or services. It is an offence to use any network facility or services to create, produce, distribute, or possess any content that is offensive, indecent, or false in nature. It is also an offence to use network facilities or services to commit any criminal or unlawful acts. The third one is improper use of network facility or services. It is an offence to use any network facilities or services to cause annoyance, inconvenience, or needless anxiety to any person. It is also an offence to use network facility or services to breach the privacy of any person. The fourth one is cybersecurity offences. The Act also contains provisions on cybersecurity offences. It is an offence to gain unauthorized access to any computer, computer system, or computer network. It is also an offence to cause any unauthorized modification, destruction, or disclosure of any data or computer program. And the last one is false or misleading representations. It is an offence to make any false or misleading representations in relation to the provision of any communication or multimedia services. Apart from the previous offence elements, the Communication and Multimedia Act 1998, Act 588, also contains a code of ethics for content providers broadcasters and publishers. The Code of Ethics sets out the standard of conduct and behavior expected from the parties. The Code of Ethics includes the following offense elements, which is content standard. Content providers, broadcasters, and publishers must ensure that their content is accurate, fair, and not misleading. They must also ensure that their content does not promote hatred, violence, or any discrimination. Other than that, privacy and confidentiality. Content providers, broadcasters, and publishers must respect their privacy and confidentiality of their users and customers. The next one is fairness and impartiality. Content providers, broadcasters, and publishers must ensure that their content is fair and impartial. And the last one is sensitivity. Content providers, broadcasters, and publishers must be sensitive to the cultural, religious, and moral values of their users and customers. So from this, we can know that the Communication and Multimedia Act 1998, Act 588, contains several offence elements related to communication and multimedia services in Malaysia. These offence elements are aimed to ensuring the protection of consumers' interests and the national security, promoting fair competition in the industry, and upholding ethical standards in the provision of communication and multimedia services. Let's look at the related cases. The first one is spreading fake news related to COVID-19. One recent case related to the Communication and Multimedia Act 1998 Act 588 in Malaysia is the arrest of several individuals for allegedly spreading fake news related to COVID-19. The individuals were arrested under Section 233 of the Act, which make it offence to create, produce, or distribute any content that is indecent, obscene, false, or offensive in nature. This case highlights the relevance of the Act in the current situation, as the spread of fake news and misinformation related to COVID-19 can have serious consequences for public health and safety. The Act provides a legal framework for combating the spread of fake news and misinformation and holds individuals accountable for their actions. The second one is violating the Code of Ethics. The MCMC blocked several news websites for allegedly violating the Code of Ethics for content providers, broadcasters, and publishers. The websites were accused of publishing content that was inaccurate, misleading, and biased. The MCMC blocked them in accordance with Section 263 of the Act, which allows the Commission to take action against content providers who violate the Code of Ethics. This case highlights the relevance of the Act in promoting ethical standards in provision of communication and multimedia services. The Act provides guidance for the content providers, broadcasters, and publishers to ensure that their content is accurate, fair, and not misleading. It also promotes sensitivity to the cultural, religious, and moral values of users and customers. Overall, these cases demonstrate the continued relevance of the Communication and Multimedia Act 1998 Act 588 in Malaysia's current situation. The Act provides a legal framework for regulating communication and multimedia services, promoting ethical standards, and protecting national security and public interests. Finally, let's look at the relevancy. The Communication and Multimedia Act 1998, Act 588 is still relevant in the current situation as it continues to provide a comprehensive legal framework for the communication and multimedia industry in Malaysia. Since the law's establishment in 1998, it has undergone a number of updates to keep along with the development of communication and multimedia services. In the current situation, the Act remains relevant as it provides the regulatory framework for the provision of communication and multimedia services, including broadband, mobile, and fixed-line telephone services, as well as television and radio broadcasting. The Act ensures that the service providers comply with the industry standard and regulations, which in turn provides protection for consumers. Additionally, the Act remains relevant in the current situation as it contains provisions that protect national security by regulating the use of communication and multimedia services. The Act also provides a framework for the protection of privacy and data protection in communication and multimedia industry. The Act's Code of Ethics is still important today since it offers guidelines for content creators, broadcasters, and publishers on how to make sure their content is truthful, impartial, and not deceptive. It also promotes sensitive to the cultural, religious, and moral values of users and consumers. In conclusion, the Communication and Multimedia Act 1998, Act 588, is needed in the current situation as it continues to provide a legal structure for the communication and multimedia industry in Malaysia. The legislation promotes ethical standards in delivery of communication and multimedia services, guarantees that industry participants obey by rules and laws, and protects national security.